Hi, so today I'm going to make a video that I've been meaning to make for a really long time, but I've been putting off and putting off. But today I'm going to sit down and talk about my body weight, the progress I've made in Olympic weightlifting, and my recovery from bulimia, and kind of how all those three things tie in together. So I think I'll start by kind of telling you a little bit about my eating disorder. So I'd never really had a particularly healthy relationship with food. I used to binge eat quite a lot when I was younger, and that carried on for quite a long time. Never to like any excessive level, but I always felt like my relationship with food wasn't really the healthiest, and I obsessed about it and stuff. So when I started CrossFit in, must have been 2013, I really credited that for a while with changing my focus from looking a certain way, looking skinnier and stuff, to focusing on how my body could perform and what my body could do, which for ages I thought was a really positive thing. It is a really positive thing. And then I became a coach in January 2014, and kind of my binge eating habits came back quite a lot. And I remember thinking, I wish I could find a way to undo the damage that I'm doing from my binging, because I was convinced that I was going to was putting on loads of fat, and felt very uncomfortable with the way I looked, which, it's funny looking back at photos of myself now from that period of time, I probably look the leanest I've ever looked. But anyway, so in kind of the early months of 2014, my bulimic binge purge behaviour started, and that went on secretively for a good year, I'd say, before I really opened up to anyone about it and kind of admitted that I had an actual problem. And it got worse and worse before I kind of realised that I wasn't going to fix this problem on my own, and I needed to speak to somebody. I needed professional help. So I went to the GP back in the beginning of the summer, and he referred me to the kind of regional eating disorder service, where I was offered a course of cognitive behavioural therapy with the aim of stopping that bulimic behaviour, which I'm pleased to say I've come to the end of that treatment a little while ago now, and I feel like I'm recovered pretty much fully. I haven't had any episodes for quite a long time, which is good. But obviously that behaviour, that eating disorder affected my self-confidence quite a lot, and my body as well in quite a significant way. I was quite lucky because I wasn't suffering from that behaviour severely for very long, so the damage to my body has been quite limited. But it has influenced the progress I've been able to make with my weightlifting, which I realise now. And it massively negatively influenced my body weight as well. One of the things that I learnt when I started the NHS eating disorder treatment was that the longer you engage in those bulimic behaviour, the more weight people actually seem to gain. For some reason, your body over time loses less calories from vomiting than it did at the beginning. So although bulimic people might lose weight at first, the longer you're bulimic for, the more weight you gain. So it actually ends up doing the complete opposite of what you want it to do. Anyway, so I'd wanted to get better for a really long time, and I'd wanted to stop the behaviour that I was doing and recover for a long time, but for a really long time I felt like it wasn't really possible. I just couldn't see a way to do it. And then I'm not really sure what changed exactly, but something just seemed to click in me a while ago, and I realised that I'm never gonna get better at the sport I love. I'm never gonna get stronger if I keep making myself sick. And it was having this really fixed goal of wanting to compete and be competitive in weightlifting that kind of made me realise that I had to stop that behaviour. And it was having that really focused goal that kind of sorted things out for me, because just wanting to get better generally for my general health was a really broad goal that wasn't specific enough for me to focus on. So in a lot of ways, I really credit weightlifting as a sport with my recovery. Obviously it's not for everyone, and some of the things that go hand in hand with weightlifting and competing in weightlifting, like trying to lose weight for competitions, can be quite triggering to people with eating disorders. And it was something my therapist was quite conscious of when I spoke to her about weightlifting in the beginning. But for me, having that goal has been the single most valuable thing in terms of my recovery. So yeah, that's kind of a broad overview of my eating disorder and my recovery from it. I'll talk about my body weight now. So back when I started CrossFit, I weighed about 58 kilograms, give or take. Not a great deal of muscle, fair bit of fat. I wasn't fat, but I wasn't lean by any means. And then when I was in my kind of first few months of CrossFit, the usual thing happens that happens to people when they start weight training, in that I gained muscle, but I lost fat as well. So I stayed about the same. I stayed about 58, and that was when I was, in my opinion, looking my best. And then my bulimia started, and I gained weight and gained weight and gained weight. And I think at the beginning of my treatment for bulimia, the highest I weighed in at was 68 kilos, which for me was quite shocking and quite upsetting. But that was part of the treatment for the eating disorder. I had to be weighed every week by the therapist. So where I'd gone from avoiding scales for probably a couple of years, I hadn't placed any value on weight before that, to being weighed once a week was challenging. But yeah, my highest weight was 68 kilos. And so when I started weightlifting, it was kind of agreed upon that I would ultimately want to compete at 58 kilos. That's kind of seemingly the most sensible weight category for me, given my height and size. But at this point I was still sat 10 kilos above that. So I've been cutting down to 63 kilos for this upcoming competition in 4 days now. And I weighed in at 63.8 kilos on Monday morning. So I'm within reach of that 63 kilo mark at this point, which is really reassuring. So I'm going to compete at 63 kilos in this competition, and then in January, hopefully, I will have dropped down to 58 kilos and I'll be able to compete at 58 kilos again. So yeah, I think now that I'm pretty much recovered from my bulimia, weight seems to be gradually coming off me. I haven't been sticking to a massively strict diet, but nor have I been binging like I used to, and I certainly haven't been purging either, so that's kind of stabilized my weight, which is really encouraging. Now, with regards to my progress in weightlifting itself, I have these PBs for the snatch and clean and jerk, which I got probably a year ago while I was still doing mainly CrossFit, before my bulimia got really bad. And the frustrating thing for me over the past few months has been watching my technique improve massively, where I've just been focusing on weightlifting, but not seeing that progress translate into personal bests on the lifts themselves. And I think that's probably because when it comes down to it, I'm just, although my technique's massively improved, I'm not as strong as I was, or I'm of a similar strength to what I was a year or so ago, and I haven't really made the kind of progress I would have expected myself to make because of my bulimia, because it's obviously very hard for a body to gain muscle when you're engaging in such damaging behaviours. So I PB'd both my snatch and my clean and jerk off of my CrossFit numbers from a year ago last weekend. So my original CrossFit numbers was something like 57.5 clean and jerk and 45 snatch. And last week I got a 60 clean and jerk and a 47.5 snatch. So I've made little gains based off of the massive improvement I've made in my technique. And now that I'm in recovery, hopefully I should see my strength gains shoot up in the next few months. So I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, that's kind of my story of my recovery, briefly, not really going into too much detail there, and kind of a little bit of a chat about weight and progress in terms of strength, which is more for my benefit than anything else really, because I need to keep reminding myself that I can't expect the world of my body right now while I'm still recovering and still healing from that bulimic behaviour. But I'm getting better every day and getting stronger every day, and every single day that I choose recovery and choose not to ultimately have an eating disorder, I'm getting better.